thanks for showing up so early on this cold morning. But we're really, we're really excited to be here, and we're going to keep. I think we're not even going to do our intros. If you watch the video, you know about our backgrounds. We both come from Disney. Our pretty much most of our adult life was spent at Disney, and for 3 years now, we've been out trying to figure out how to be consultants and how to work with companies and workshops and keynote speeches and podcasts and writing books and all kinds of different things like that. So what we wanted to do this morning, we have an exercise to get y'all moving and get the energy level up. As we told David, we said, if there are no questions, we can talk forever. But we are going to keep going back to you. We would love you to ask anything about Disney, about career paths, about what am I going to do with my life. We have an opinion. And we'd love to share information with you. And the other thing, when we were talking to Fred and David and all the professors, we are really accessible. We've created this course for you all as a pilot, and this is sort of 2.0, doing the recorded piece of it. But we're going to let you know what our email address is. We're creating a closed Facebook site, and if you're interested in registering, we'll be on there interacting, putting articles, and we'd love to talk with you all if you want to engage, because we've had a lot of, as I kind of say, 25 years learning, 25 years doing, and hopefully 25 years teaching. And as my dad said, the rest is bonus time. so we can do that today. So you want to get into the activity?
Yeah, we thought, just to do something hands-on, just to get the neuron flowing. As Dan said, I know you watched the video and mentioned that I'm originally from France. I have an accent. If I say something you guys don't understand, let me know. You won't hurt my feelings. And I know with the mask it can be kind of hard. So by all means, if you need clarification, just let me know. How many of you were at the Pathway last night? A couple of you. Okay, so you may hear some of the things we talked about briefly. But so here's what we're going to do. This is kind of fun. We're going to see if we have some real artists in the room. How about that? So I'm going to ask you to pair up. Find a buddy that you're going to be performing the activity with. Get together, find a spot in the room where you can sit back to back. And then I'll let you know what the activity consists of.
Go.
It could be worse. We could be doing jumping jacks or something. You can use the chairs, you can sit on the ground, whatever is comfortable to you.
Moving to the chairs.
All right, that works. So, we brought papers and pens because it just occurred to us that nowadays most students don't have paper and pens. You all have computers, right? So. All right. Okay. So we're going to do 2 rounds. So you're going to each have a different role, and you're going to switch role for the second round. So in each group, Dan is about to pass some draw. I'm going to ask you to leave those papers on the table down for now. And one of you guys is going to be the person who. Dan, hold on one second. Would you? Yeah, hold it. One of you is going to grab that paper. And there's going to be an image on there, and I'm going to ask that person, it's going to be the narrator, and the narrator will have to describe what's on the picture to the person who's behind them. The person behind them cannot talk, cannot turn around, cannot ask questions. They're just going to have to follow the directions and draw what is being described to them to the best of their ability, right? Now, the person who's looking at the picture cannot say what the picture is. You cannot say, for instance, it's a car. You have to say, well, there's 2 circles, and then there is a rectangle, and you have to use geometric shapes to explain what the drawing is. Make sense? So again, the only one person is describing the picture and talking. The other one cannot turn around, cannot ask questions. And we're going to give you 1 minute, and we're going to see who can come as close as possible to the original picture. Sounds good? All right. Et Daniel, quand tu distribues, fais attention de pas, parce qu'il voit au travers les dessins.
Or I can draw it.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Everybody's got a drawing. So every narrator has a drawing in their hand.
Did we look at it yet?
Yeah. So the narrator, you can look at your picture. And then you got a minute. You can start right now. And you have to describe it to your partner. Tu donnes les dessins. On voit tout au travers. Ils ont tout vu, les trucs. Non, mais tu leur donnes. Tu laisses-moi donner les instructions avant de distribuer.
Middle rectangle, and there's like a row or whatever. Rectangle, there's a half circle, you know, you mean right of the big circle here on top of that. And then ovals at the bottom. A triangle that looks like a house is like the one that you just drew. All of this, yeah, right on top of it. The bottom line should be connected with the bottom or with the top of the rectangle. And in the middle of the middle third, you're going to do these circles throughout pretty much the whole length of the rectangle, the whole size of the rectangle pretty much, and then do another small inside of that circle. So 2 circles, both side of the middle one. And then in that second circle, draw just like a little like a curve on the sides. Kind of like you're almost going to draw another circle, but you only draw like a baseball. And then going back to the rectangle.
10 seconds.
In the middle of
10 seconds.
rectangle.
The horizontal rectangle.
The first third section, draw a smaller rectangle just on top of that. Just like
All right, time's up.
not completely touching the sides. And then do
All
that
right. Now let me see those drawings.
on the right side. Do it upside down.
Let me see those drawings. That. I need to share this one with the room. All right. We have some pretty good, interesting. Let me see this one. Pretty good. I just
Kind of upside down.
so. This was the original picture, and this is the outcome. Very good. And how about this one? So that was the original picture, the ice cream cone, and that's the. Good. All right. So, considering what just happened, then you're going to pick up the drawings, and we're going to do that again, but we're going to change the rules just so slightly. So now the person who was drawing becomes the narrator, but the narrator will be able to look at the artist, watch the artist draw, and the artist will be able to ask questions. You can't say, what am I drawing? But you can say, do I need to put this on the right, on the left, lower, higher? Does it need to be bigger? You can ask this kind. Yes or no questions can be asked by the artist. The narrator can watch and provide more instructions when needed. Sounds good? All right, so you're going to get another set of drawings.
You're going to be explaining, raise your hand.
Fais attention
Not drawing.
à ne pas faire voir les choses. You need more drawings then?
We have an odd number. The last one came in.
Um,
Pair up with.
Yeah.
maybe I'll.
They're up here.
You by yourself? Are you by yourself?
By yourself?
No, they're not participating. I can do it with.
Okay.
I can perform with. I'll be her partner.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
So you give her a picture,
Yep.
and she'll gonna describe this.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay. 1 minute. Ready? Go. And you can look at what she's drawing too. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you can look at her drawing. Explain. 10 seconds. All right, that's time. All right, you're getting there. No wheels, but you know. Better. First time wasn't bad, but that's even better. You're like going for the serious sketch with this abstract, little Picasso action. Ladybug. See, you weren't listening. You were just assuming it was a smiley face. I'll grab this.
Oh, yeah.
Was that the final product?
Yes, it is.
Ooh. All right. We'll work on that.
Yeah.
Ladybug, not bad. You did better the first time.
Dude, he's smart. Halfway through, he was like, oh, I'm trying to keep.
Boom. How'd y'all do? Yeah, got there.
You want my drawing?
No, you can keep that. Well done. Yep, you nailed it. Second time around, all right.
So let me talk to, raise your hand if you were the artist in the first round. All right, how did that feel? Fun, okay. A little unclear, okay. What did you say? Flying blind, yeah. What was the outcome? Not too bad. Yeah, you all did really well. Okay, but there were some surprises. I think we had a couple of interesting outcome, or shall I put it like this. What about the folks who were narrating in the first exercise? How does it feel? So you realized you had to be super specific? Okay. All right, how about you?
I kind of like imagined like if I were to draw this, where would I start? And so like, I don't know, trying to find like a place to begin and like how I would do it. And then I felt like that was a little bit easier than just trying to like describe the photo.
Okay. So you have to try to imagine, put yourself in the shoes of the person receiving the instructions. Okay. And when the outcome doesn't quite come out the way it's supposed to be, how does that feel? As a narrator.
Like, dang, like I should have done better.
Yes. What about sometime maybe, what did you think of your partner? I can hear some laughing here.
I think she narrated good, and I just didn't grasp what she was trying to say. Like, I thought I was drawing a boat, but I was drawing an ice cream cone.
Take your responsibility. I like that.
Yeah, lost in translation, right? That's how it feels. But as the narrator, you know what you're trying to explain, right? And then you see what comes out, and like, how in the world did this, all my instructions led to this, right? What about the second round? Well, how did it feel as an artist?
But not as much.
Yes.
I felt like I didn't know what questions to ask.
You didn't know what questions to ask? Okay. All right. What else? Did you ask a lot of questions? Okay. Do I need to go higher, lower? Does it need to be bigger, smaller, right?
Were the
What-
questions answered?
Okay. And then as the narrator, how does it feel? You were watching this time, right? You were watching the artist. So what did you do? Either one of
It got kind of messed up in translation, which way some things needed to be drawn, but since I was looking, I could correct it and still get to the right end.
Yeah, exactly. As you describing, you realize, I'm not providing the right instruction or not enough, so you can correct as you go. So, why do you think we do this exercise? What's the illustrations and what are the learnings through this exercise? Communication, right? So what is that? What does that exercise tell us about importance of communication? What makes it work or what does not make it work?
You have to know where each other are coming from to be able to help each other get to where you want to be.
Okay, so that comes back to what you were saying, I think, is understanding how the other person feels or what they have, what they know, what they hear, and make sure you cater to what they need to know in order to perform and execute what you're asking them to do. What else did we learn through this exercise?
It's important to have like two-way communication too.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great thing. I always say communication is a two-way street, right? So we saw that in the second exercise because now the person receiving the instruction can ask questions. So because they ask questions, you realize that there's a gap, there's a problem in the communication. Yes?
Clarifying clarifying what you're trying to say as far as directions go. And clear cut directions as far as what they have to draw.
Yeah. Were any of you stressed with time when we said, there's like 15 seconds? What happens typically?
Shut down.
Shut down? You go harder? Uh-huh. What about the people providing instructions? Yes.
So the people writing instructions kind of go faster and more vague, just trying to get the
Yeah, when there's pressure around, suddenly you're like, okay, well, now you got to draw a rectangle on top of the wheel. And which wheel? It's like, now everything has to happen quickly, right? How would this exercise translate in the business world?
Even if you're the one with all the instructions, like a manager or a leader or something, it's so important to listen to the people that you're leading because you can explain it forward, backwards, left, and right to you, but if they don't get a chance to voice their concerns or misunderstandings, then they can do them.
Yeah, absolutely. You may have, as a leader, you may have a very clear idea of what you want your team member to execute or to do, and then you maybe are not providing the amount of instructions or the right instructions for that person to perform accordingly. Now, on the receiving end, how does it feel? When you're being told, and how many of you have done internship? Okay. Have you found yourself in a situation where somebody says, hey, go and take care of that? And then you have a vague idea of what they expect from you, but you're not sure? How does that feel? Not good, right?
This may feel very simple, but the reason we do this exercise is this is like one of the most important things in leadership is actually taking the time to interact and talk with people and have a conversation and have a two-way dialogue. Because some of you showed up, maybe you've worked at a front desk of a hotel, and the manager said, all right, when the guest comes in, draw a light bulb. And you're like, or maybe it was written on the board. When a guest comes in the lobby, draw a light bulb. You're like, well, I don't know why. What does that mean? What does it look like? Or they said, hey, when a guest comes in, draw this. Or they said, hey, we're going to draw this together and let's talk about what that looks like. Because we see that all the time. You know, in the hospitality, executing upon standards is so important. That's why businesses are successful, not successful. They're able to consistently deliver. And as a leader, your enemy is time. And that's why communication typically doesn't work as well, because the managers don't have time. They have so many things to worry about, emails coming in, guests coming in, things to follow up on, their bosses asking them questions. And just to get in the style of having a conversation with an employee and say, hey, I want to go over something. Here's how we greet people when they come in the lobby. Let me talk to you about it. Then let me show you what it looks like. Then you're going to do it. And then I'm going to give you feedback on it. And you invest that 15 minutes, and all of a sudden that person's going to do it the right way again and again and again. And this is such a elementary example, but this happens every single day. And I'm sure a lot of you did internships, and you're like, the training was like, here's the book, read the book. You're ready, go check people in now. And you didn't have the confidence, and you can't deliver.
I think one of the, I obviously agree with everything Dan has said about communication. The problem is today you go and when you post for a job or you apply for a job, 99% of the job says need to have great communication skills. But when you actually work in a company, there's pressure, right? There's all this stuff happening, like you have 15 seconds left. So now you only have this vague idea of what you need to do, the pressure is mounting. And as a leader, sometimes one of the problems that we have is because of that pressure, first of all, we don't even know for sure in our heads what it is we want our team to do. So that would be the step number one. First, make sure in your own head it is clear what you expect, what outcome you expect. And when you're going to pass this on to your team, you have to invest time, to make sure they understand the standards or they understand what it is they need to do. But again, a lot of people do not see this, they think of this as a loss of time, when actually it's an investment that will pay off in the end. So it is counterintuitive because you want to go fast, you want to get things done, and you want to be known as a leader who gets their team going and executing everything. But before this happens, you have to invest in something that is not, you don't make money, you don't produce anything. It's not, substantial or...
There's no direct cost to it.
Exactly.
Your focus and talking to people.
So this is the thing, in most organizations, you can talk about a whole bunch of things. People will tell you, a leader can be really smart, can be super creative, can be super strategic. But what does that do for your business if you can't communicate and pass that on to the people who work for you? There are some people out there who are great inventors, but they were genius, but they were absolutely unable to sell their idea or have anybody work upon it because they could not pass that on to other people. I'd love to hear some example of some of the frustration that maybe some of you have had doing internship, where you've been in this kind of situation where there's a communication breakdown, and how it feels to be on the receiving end of that. Anybody has an example they're willing to share? Yes?
Okay, so I have like an event planning internship,
Mhm.
and my manager basically, or like my boss, supervisor, like didn't really tell us what we had to do, just like kind of like gave us a list and then like talked it out and then like just sent us out. And then like over the walkie-talkie, she's like yelling at us to do stuff, and like we didn't know what we were supposed to be doing in that moment, and everyone just like felt really like overwhelmed, I guess.
Yeah. And that leader very probably thinks, what's going on? My team members are incompetent. Why is it they can't do what I'm asking them to do? Well, there's a miscommunication in the middle of that. So, anything else? Anybody else? Yeah.
It wasn't exactly an internship, but it kind of felt like it because I was the only 18-year-old kid, and like the second youngest person there was 27, and all the other waiters were 40 plus. But it was like fine dining, and I was working as an expo, and I was taking these two plates out of the window to put them on a carpet, and then somebody just took them out of my hand because they had the table with the exact same order. And they started going out and I was yelling, like, just not, communication wasn't happening. I was like, those aren't yours, that's for this. And she was like, but this is my order. And I was like, I understand that's about to come up. And like, while we were arguing, the chef just straight up kicked me out of the kitchen. He was like, go home, stop screwing up my kitchen. And like, just because like we couldn't communicate fast enough and it worked out, I got sent home for the day.
Yeah. You know, where it gets super challenging is that in hospitality, there's no perfect playbook, right? Because, you know, every time, whether you work in a restaurant, front desk, housekeeping, wherever, you have a different guest with different expectation, different needs, and different wants. And you'll hear us in some of the video talk about this. So the problem is, if you can't have a playbook that tells you every possible situation. If somebody comes to the front desk and says that this is what you need to do, you can't have a SOP, is that how you, standard operating procedure, that tells you every single possible scenario. It's not going to happen.
A lot of companies try to do that. There's a grid. This happens, do this. This happens, do this. On paper, it looks great. Now we don't have to worry about anything because it's all right there. The problem is that's not the real world. The real world are about subtleties, people's attitudes, and the situations are a little bit different.
And Dan and I, we can share, hundreds of examples at Disney where just weird scenarios in situations that nobody could have planned or prepared for. So what do you do in that case? As a company or as a leader, how can you make sure that your team will respond in an appropriate way? Well, we'll tell you that after a combined 41 years working for Disney, there's only one thing that has worked for us, and it works perfectly for Disney. And considering they're doing really well, I assume that that's the way to do this. They've created standards. And those standards are the same whether you are a vice president or whether you're a frontline person. You have 4 standards. They call them the 4 keys at Disney. Some companies call them their principles, some company calls them the quality standards, but those principles become your criteria for decision making. So at Disney, they very quickly realized that people who come to Disney expect 4 things from the organization. Number 1, they don't articulate it, but it's the very first, the most important thing at Disney.
What do you think it is?
Yes.
What would you think the most important thing is every time you make a decision at Disney, the first thing you check before you do anything else? Safety.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's not something else, nobody books vacation at Walt Disney World thinking, oh, I'm going there because it's safe, right? They go there because they want to see the characters, they want to experience the rides, they want to be in the parks, stay in the nice hotels.
Yeah, they don't book there because it's safe. They know it's safe, and so it's just a given. They're assuming nothing's going to go wrong because it's automatically safe. So you got to protect that. Food quality, food is safe, the place is safe. I'm not going to get hurt.
So that's the first standard. Second one, what do you think Disney is known for? What do you think would be, on the guest point of view, the number 2 criteria that make them choose Walt Disney World as a vacation destination? Experience. It is part of it, but it's not the second criteria. Courtesy. Yeah.
You're in hospitality.
Come here because of that. This is hospitality, and people want to go there because people at Disney, cast members, are nice. They're nice. They're friendly. And even if your experience is not great, maybe the entertainment part of it is not what you had envisioned, but people are nice. And when you're nice, they're very forgiving. Think about it. Think about your best friend. You're forgiving to your best friend because you know them, because they're nice to you, right? So that's the second standard at Disney. The third standard will be what you mentioned, will be the show, will be the entertainment portion. People go there for the fireworks, the parade, the cast members meet and greet, the characters, meet and greet. So their little girl can, dress as a princess. So that's the third standard.
And I'll just give a quick example of show, because we call it show. It's not only the entertainment piece, but it's the infrastructure. Do things look the way they should look? So for example, when I walk into a room like this, this is pretty consistent in all the rooms. You have the buckets here and these signs. I'll come in, I'll look at the lighting. Is all the lighting working? Is it clean? The boards were cleaned up, so these look nice. There's stickers. This one has, every desk has one sticker or two stickers, and some have one. So I asked myself, why is it not consistent? So you look at how the place is set up, and you build a checklist, and before you open every morning, everything is in its place. Everyone, it has the right color shoes on, the right color socks to how you operate. Because when you're dealing with hospitality, every day is day one. Guests are coming in for the first time, and it has to feel like day one. It has to feel like this great experience, and there's a lot of discipline to that. So as Valerie said, you use your judgment to help people with courtesy, but you're disciplined in how you execute the plan every day. And I'm sure when you were working in fine dining, you all had a very specific system. Everyone had a role. The chef had a plan. You were taught how to set the tables. The forks always went in the same place, the knives, the water glass. There's a system to it. That's the show.
And then the last quality standard will be efficiency, because you're business. Disney is not a non-profit organization, in case you have not noticed. I actually usually tell people that Disney taps into your heart on their way to your wallet, and they do that really well. That's why you watch all those movies. You grow up feeding on the Lion King and all the princesses and all these great movies, and then you go to the park and you're willing to take a second mortgage just to go on vacation at Walt Disney World for a week, right? And people are very willing to do this because they know that when they go there, they're going to get safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. So that becomes the decision criteria for everybody in the organization, whether you interact directly with the guest or whether you work in the offices, whether you work in horticulture or food and beverage or front desk or entertainment, whether you're dancing on stage, whatever you do at Disney, this is what you think about every day when you have to make a decision. And they are in that order, by the way, meaning that if safety is compromised in any way for a guest or for a cast member, for that matter, you don't have to be courteous. You may have to cancel a show, and you may have to shut down part of the park, which would affect the other 3 quality standards. But you never compromise safety. And then if safety is taken care of, you have to be nice to people. And sometimes being nice to people means that, when they try to use their selfie stick in the middle of the parade, which prevents other people from enjoying the parade, you have to go to them and tell them very nicely, that you cannot use your selfie stick at Disney. So it becomes a way of, it's like a second reflex when you have to make a decision. So let me give you an example. Who's been to Walt Disney World? All right, favorite ride? Who? Anybody else? Favorite ride at Walt Disney World? Space Mountain. All right, we're going to take Space Mountain. Now imagine you're at Space Mountain, you're the cast member who loads and unloads the attraction, right? And you have a family of 5 shows up, mom, dad, little kid, and grandmother. Grandma is 75 years old. A little bit wobbly on the leg.
She gets less excitement. She's a kind of
Yeah, 75-year-old grandma wants to go on Space Mountain. She's like, I am going. She's a little bit shaky, right? She's not. And you're about to dispatch the ride. And this lady has to get onto the Space Mountain. And you have to step down into the rocket. And you're watching this woman and you're thinking, I'm not sure that she's going to be able to board safely without tripping and falling. What do I do? Now, you can slow down the entire ride, the entire process. You can actually, you have what they call an e-stop button. You can stop all of Space Mountain and shut it down. But if you do that, there's, 100 people who have been in line for an hour and a half, and they're about this close to boarding the ride, and they're looking at you and giving you the stinky eye because they've been waiting for 90 minutes and they really want to get on the ride. And you're thinking, if I stop the ride right now to let this lady board, they're going to have to wait a little longer until we restart the ride. And then I'm going to be happy about that. So here goes your courtesy, right? Number 2, the folks who are in the ride and they're enjoying the experience, If you stop the ride, everything shuts down. So now they're totally immersed into space and experiencing this great stuff, but now everything shuts down and they hear, please remain seated, stay inside your vehicle, your experience will start momentarily. So that kind of ruins the show part of it, right? Because the experience is not as immersive as it's supposed to be. That's number 2. Number 3, efficiency. As Disney, when you have 20 million people visiting the Magic Kingdom, everybody pays a lot of money to go there. They want to be able to experience as many rides as possible. But if you stop the ride, you have what we call the throughput, which is the number of visitors you can put per attraction per hour. And the cast member who's working there is thinking, if I stop the ride, my throughput's going to drop. So our efficiency as a park, as an operation, is going to drop. What do I do? Well, there's not, in the cast member's mind, there's no hesitation. They stop the ride. Because from day one when you go to Disney, they tell you we have 4 quality standards, safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency, and they come in that order. Meaning that we will never compromise safety. And it's okay to stop the ride and maybe make people unhappy, maybe ruin the show a little bit, and maybe affect our efficiency as a park, but you will never compromise safety. So they have 4 quality standards, they rank them in order, and everybody in the organization operates according to those criteria. So what happens as a result, you have great consistency around the organization. And everybody, again, no matter your role in the organization, maybe you make burgers, maybe you pop popcorn, maybe you dance, maybe you do attraction, but you always think about things this way. And as an operator, as a cast member, you don't have to call a leader, you don't have to call a peer and say, hey, what do I need to do? I've got this 75-year-old lady, she wants to get on Space Mountain, she's crazy. Well, you're like, no, I know exactly what to do, I stop the ride. So our point is here, as an organization, when you need to communicate effectively, it involves providing people with decision-making tools that they can use on the fly when they're a spur-of-the-moment decision that needs to happen. And then the beauty of it is when you invest time to communicate effectively and provide people with the right tools, you know what happened as a leader? The best thing you can do? You can delegate. You don't have to do it yourself. You don't have, as a leader, to be in the operation watching, making sure there's not a 75-year-old lady who's trying to ride the attraction who may have a safety issue. You can let your frontline people take care of them. Does that make sense? So, you'll hear some of this here. You want to add something to the standards?
Yeah, this is a great example. The only thing I add on, some companies will say, you know what, use your common sense or use your best judgment. That's not a way to train people. Because what happens is after I make a decision, if I go through this, the chances I'm going to make a good decision go up dramatically because not only did I make the decision, but I can explain why I made the decision. So, we can go on forever the examples. I have a family of 5 walk up. They all go through. They have their magic band, green, 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 green. The last kid goes through blue. Oh, the cast member can look at... Yeah, okay, magic band. This is when you make a reservation for the attractions. And you have an RFID chip in your band. And when you go to the attraction, you have a 1-hour window to go in and you don't have to wait in line. When you touch it, if it turns green, you go. And blue is, there's a problem. You don't have a reservation. We don't use red. No one likes to see red. You ever get red markups on an exam? Red's not good. Blue's okay. So the last kid, when the family says, we don't know what happened. This is his brother and sister. That's our kid. We booked for 5. And that cast member in that moment can say, you know what? Let me use my common sense here. Is this a safety issue? The kid's tall enough to go on. Okay, courtesy. Yeah, of course they're together. I'm going to make the exception and let them go in because this family belongs to. I'm not going to let the computer tell me what I can and can't do. I'm going to use my judgment because courtesy comes as the most important thing. And I let him through. Now, if that same kid comes through and he's half an inch too short, the family, look, this is the only reason we came to Walt Disney World. We thought he was tall enough. They told us he was tall enough. That cast member can say, look, I can do lots of stuff for you. I can get you an ice cream. I can get you a fast pass to go on another ride, but I cannot let your son go on this ride because it is safety. There's a reason there's a height requirement here. And that family can go find a manager and say, they won't let me on this ride. And the manager will say, that's right, because it's a safety issue, but what can we do for you? So now everyone's aligned. That alignment helps everyone. And I used this when I was running the Magic Kingdom as the vice president. I used safety, courtesy, show efficiency to make decisions. And college program cast members that had been there a week used the same model. And that's the beauty of it. Everyone's using the same criteria.
Something I want to share. I know you all watched the first video, and we talked about the chain of excellence, right? And I don't know if you remember this, but we start at the bottom. This is, as an organization, you want to make money, right? And we explained that in order to make money, your cast members have to be nice and your employees have to provide great service to your guests or your visitors, right? And then we explained that for this to happen, actually, let me go back. This is your visitors. We're going to do this like that. And then for your visitors to be happy and come back to your organization, they have to be happy. But for them to have a great experience, you need your employees to be delivering great service. And these people will only deliver great service if they're also happy. Right? If you hate your job, it's really hard to go out there and put a smile on your face and be friendly, right? So what we explain in the chain of excellence is this is why, as a leader, you're here. And leaders need to create an environment where the employees are happy, so that the employees are motivated, committed, engaged, and willing to deliver great service to your visitors. And then your visitors, in return, will come spend a lot of money in your organization, and you're going to be making money. The problem is today, most organizations, not most, but some organizations, that's the only thing they look at. How much money is in the cash register at the end of the day? That's what they keep their eyes on. And that's okay for a day or two. It's a short-term payback, right? It's a short-term goal for you, but it's not sustainable. That's not what makes a successful organization. Now, a lot of organizations focus here. They say, all right, we need to provide great service right here so people come back to us. Yeah, that's good. That will work for a while. But as a leader, you have to be able to influence these people to make sure they deliver, that they have a smile on their face, that say please and thank you and engage with people and give them an excellent experience. This is only going to happen if these people here, the leaders here, are creating the right culture in the organization, right? Because you can't beat these people and to make them do it. They have to be, you have to make them committed, you don't want them to comply. You don't want to tell them, these are the rules and you're going to follow the rules. Because sooner or later, these people have no loyalty to your organization. Today in America, if you look at the Gallup organization, you have about 34% of employees are happy. They're happy, they're engaged, they're motivated, they want to do great service, they want to perform. And then you have about, I'll say 50 people, it changes a little bit every year, but 50 people show up, they do their job to earn their paycheck, and they just do enough to get their paycheck. They don't go above and beyond. And these folks will not, if there's a better opportunity, a job somewhere else, they'll go, because they have no loyalty towards the organization. The thing is, you have 16% of people who are actively disengaged in your organization. These folks, they hate their job. And all they want to do is just move on to the next best thing. So when you have this kind of situation, this is, as a leader, becoming really, really hard to manage. What you want is these kind of employees. And you're going to get those 34% of people if you create an environment here that is a great environment to work in. So the point is, the reason why I'm explaining this is at Disney we told you, here is the 4 quality standards, right? Safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. Well, here we have quality standards too for the employees. Can you guess what they are? Exactly. Same thing. Safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency. Because if you do these people the favor of delivering the same standards to them, they will go and deliver that to the visitors. So there needs to be a consistency across the board. Again, you can't plaster a smile on your face when your leader is being, a horrible person to you. You can't have a safe, you can't keep people safe unless you are, as an employee, safe yourself. You cannot be part of a show if you're not yourself, granted the same favor from your leaders. At Disney, when it's Christmas on stage, what we call on stage, on Main Street in the park, you go backstage, there's just lots of decoration stuff happening also. We celebrate backstage the same thing we celebrate on stage. When it's Halloween, the same thing. From the pumpkin carving contest to the costumes to, there's all kinds of stuff happening. So they make sure there's a consistency here. When we're asking about courtesy, we ask employees to be courteous to the guest. Let me tell you, if you work in HR at Disney, who are your guests? The other employees, right? Well, let me tell you, the folks at HR are super nice to the employees. Super nice. Why? Because, again, you want this to be part of the organization. So I know it all sounds like pixie dust right now, but it's not very complicated. It's a very simple concept, and it pays off. It's a long-term investment. This is where you have companies that create a culture. And eventually they make the money. You do get the money, but what you have, your focus has to be start right here, and that will make all the difference to you as a leader.
So I have a question for you all. Because every month I would get a big report, research report. We surveyed, you leave, hey, can we send you a survey? You'd fill it out. How was your experience? What do you think were the two most important questions I looked at immediately at the end of every month from our guests?
I like the are you to return and to refer to somebody that you know.
Did you watch the video? Yeah, that's it. He's like, I don't know, man. Intent to return and intent to recommend. Absolutely. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's, did you deliver an excellent experience? Well, that's important, but that has to convert into people wanting to come back and wanting to tell others about it. You go to TripAdvisor, you go to whatever site you go to, you're listening. Your friends tell you, you got to go stay in that hotel. It was worth it. You need to go there. That is gold. That's how we run our business now as entrepreneurs. Intent to return, intent to recommend. We need our clients to recommend us to other people, because them going randomly on the internet and finding us and out of like 1 billion websites is not a good business plan. We need people calling other people to tell them they're going to do a great job for you. This is the key to the business. Now, we've worked with companies. We worked with Rail down in Peru. And when we told them that, they said, well, Machu Picchu is a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime trip. So we don't expect people to come back. We're like, that's fair, but you definitely want them to be recommending to use Rail to go visit Machu Picchu. That's your business model. How are you going to do this? And once again, you go upstream, well, we're going to have to deliver an excellent experience. We're going to have to figure out what excellent is. What do your guests value the most and deliver that? And then, as Valerie said, you keep going upstream to leaders creating that environment. Magic Kingdom was open, 16 hours a day, 365 days a year, 12,000 employees. I didn't matter much there. It was the 12,000 employees who were delivering service to the guests. The guests were deciding whether they were having an excellent visit or not. Did you say hi? Did you find my lost teddy bear? Did you replace my ice cream when my son dropped it? Did I have to wait in line a long time? Did you keep us safe? All those thousands, hundreds of thousands of interactions determined whether they wanted to come back and they wanted to recommend us.
I think one of the things too that I want to emphasize, and I think as a leader you need to think about, when we're explaining all this, well, two things. When we're explaining all this, you may be thinking, well, I'm not going to be in charge right away of a huge organization. You're going to start being an entry-level leader. But in your realm of responsibility, in your zone of influence, you're going to have to be able to deliver great service consistently. And that formula applies to even a small team. You need to have you can tell your team, okay, you may have 3 people, 5 people, 10 people, doesn't matter. These are the criteria. If it doesn't exist in your organization, create it. create some consistency in your group so you can perform and you can involve the people who work for you and they can be engaged in your organization. The other thing too is never lose track of what you're trying to do. And at Disney, I know it sounds a little bit like, the pixie dust and all this, but everybody knows that the goal and what we call the common purpose is to make people happy, provide them with magical experience. So it doesn't matter if you flip burgers, dance, do horticulture, make the beds, or you work in finance, it doesn't matter. The goal is to make people happy. And let's do a little exercise just to get the blood flowing. I'm going to ask you to stand up. All right, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And on my count to 3, you're going to keep your eyes closed and point towards the north. 1, 2, 3. All right, now open your eyes, keep your hands up, and look around the room. All right, where is everybody pointing? We have about half of the room going this way, half here, some there. I'm not even sure what north is. I'm guessing over here somewhere.
Peaks are over there. It's over there.
Okay, it's over there. All right. So sit down. Why do you think I do this? Now, what happens in an organization when we all have a different north? It looks like that, right? I'm finance, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to work for the bottom line. And I'm horticulture, and I will need to make it pretty, so that's my focus. And I'm working in hotels, and for me, it's I just need to clean as many rooms as possible during the day. That's a problem, because everybody has a different north. And everybody starts pulling in their own directions. And now you have frustrations, you have conflict, you have different priorities. So in a team, regardless of how big it is or how small it is, you need to have one goal. Everybody needs to understand we all have the same north and we're all going to look to deliver that one thing. Because ultimately, this is what's going to bring dollars to our organization. And this is all about the guest.
So a couple of examples. Yeah. So when we started talking to the employees about you're here to create magic, you're here to make people happy. Some employees said, that sounds good, but I'm a housekeeper. We don't get to participate. We say, why? Well, I don't even see the guest. By the time I get to the room, they're gone for the day. And by the time I leave and gone home, they're coming back from the parks. I never even get to see them, so we can't play. We said, no, you have to be involved here. You got to figure out a way to create happiness, create magic for the guests. And if you've ever been to Disney, you go back to your room, there's towel animals, they're like folded like swans. The kids plush, all the stuffed animals are on the bed with a remote control, and they're watching the Disney Channel. When you get back to the room, they create these scenes for guests coming back. They want to entertain them. Custodial's like, look, I clean toilets and empty trash cans. Good luck to you all in making happiness. We're just here to keep the place clean. We're like, no, you have to play too. So then they started brainstorming. They came up with, what? If we get a pan, if we have 10 extra minutes, we're going to get our pan, we're going to put water in it, we're going to get our brooms, and now we got a paintbrush. And we trained them how to paint Mickey Mouse or Goofy or Donald Duck on the concrete. We had Imagineering do a training class for them. If you want to participate, you can do that at Disney. And when you have extra time, now Disney, that lasts about 30 seconds before it evaporates, and only about 8 guests get to see it. But they walk away going, only at Disney am I going to see someone from Custodial be an artist. And that's that moment. Everyone is looking for a way to make guests happy, to create that magic before their jobs. You're out there selling ice cream. It's, you can learn that pretty quickly. It's not but you have 30,000 people walking around your cart every day. How am I going to do that? How am I going to talk to people about where you're from, where you're going, what's your favorite ride? Hey, I heard this is happening today. And you're creating these moments. And while you're doing that, oh, by the way, do you want to buy an ice cream? That's secondary to your main purpose. And it's such a powerful thing. So I've always wanted to do this. We haven't talked about this. But real quick, I want you all to stand up this time and point north with attitude. 1, 2, 3. That's common purpose right there. None of this going in this area. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to do that. But that's the power of that. You're talking about it every day. You're not talking about how can you do this better. You're talking about how are you creating the magic. Now, you're still training people to technically do their job, but they're looking for those extra opportunities to create those moments that are unexpected for guests. And that turns into excellent experiences, and that turns into only at Disney do I get to do that. Only at Disney do I get to have those experiences. And that's the return business. And you know what? You know how much it costs intent to recommend in marketing? Zero. It's free marketing, free publicity, most powerful kind.
So, to circle back on, because I know we kind of veered off, communication, but again, all of this, you create that for your organization, but at the end of the day, you can create all this great stuff. You're still going to have to communicate it. You're still going to have to train people accordingly. You're going to have to role model it. You remember that second round of exercise when we told you, the narrator could watch the other person draw and maybe provide more details and more instructions? That's what great leaders, that's what great leaders do. They provide, they role model, they explain, they train, they do all of that. They spend a lot of time in the operation doing this. I don't know if it's one of the video that you're going to be watching, but there's something that stays in my mind all the time. Being a French person, the first time I worked for Disney in 1987 in the French pavilion, I knew about the quality standards. I knew that I had to provide courtesy to the guest. But being French, courtesy in France is just slightly different. I don't know if you've heard, a lot of people you hear in America say, oh, French waiters and waitresses, they're not being friendly, they're not being very nice. Well, why is it? Because in France, when you train in a hospitality school as a waiter, you're being taught not to disturb the guest. You can't interrupt them, you can't, you have to be as discreet as possible. Here in America, the expectation is different. You go to a restaurant, the guy says, hello, my name is Bill, I'm going to be your waiter tonight. How are you folks doing today? And you're like, do I know you?
And then sit down at the table with me. This is weird.
So this is, but there's a cultural difference there, right? Which I learned about when I moved to the US. So back in 1987, I'm in the French pavilion. I'm wearing this, at the time we had those pink dresses that were interesting, but anyway. And, I worked in a retail store originally. So I thought, okay, I have to be polite, so I'll say hello and goodbye and please and thank you. I'll use my magic words like my mom taught me, right? And I did that for a week or so. And one day a supervisor, at the time they were called supervisors, they're not called that anymore, with good reason. But my leader came and she said, Valerie, how are you doing? I said, I'm doing good. She said, how's your first couple of weeks, your experience with your roommates, with work and everything? I said, good. And she said, okay. And it was fairly quiet that morning. And the family walked in with a little boy, probably was 5 years old. And she saw them coming, and we were behind the register, so she stepped from outside the register and said, how are you folks doing this morning? So the family said, oh, we're good. I said, where are you guys visiting from? Well, we're from Kansas. Oh, where about in Kansas? All right, is that your first visit to Walt Disney World? No, we've been here a couple of times. And she sees the 5-year-old. She said, how about you, little guy? What's your name? And he said, well, my name's Johnny. He said, well, Johnny, who's your favorite character? I said, well, I can't remember. Let's say Donald Duck. She said, have you met Donald yet? And he says, no. She said, well, I'll tell you what. At 12:30, between the towers at the entrance of Epcot, there is a character meet and greet. Donald's going to be there. You should go and see him, and maybe you can get his autograph and you get your picture with him. So the little boy's all excited. And the folks kind of look around the store, and she continues the conversation. All right, guys, well, you have a great day. Anything you need to know? The fireworks, don't miss the fireworks tonight, 9 o'clock. It's brilliant. It's really nice. Have a fantastic day around the World Showcase. And they left. And I understood in that moment what she was doing. She wasn't just being friendly to these people. She was role modeling what Disney courtesy was. It was a lot different from me being behind my register and says, hello, goodbye, and doing the transaction. It was interacting. And she never verbally explained it to me, but a whole part of the experience at World Showcase is for the guests to interact with people from the countries of origin, from France or Japan or, wherever. So it had to be that interaction and going to eye level to talk to a little boy and, engaging with them. And some people may not want that. They may not, they're like, oh, they don't really want to engage. But at least you providing that interaction. It's not just about the transaction. It's about providing an interaction. So in hospitality, I would highly recommend you think about that, above and beyond the money aspect and the business aspect of things, how do you create that connection with people? Because like I said, Disney taps into your heart on their way to your wallet. That's what they do so well. That's why people love Disney, and they give all that money, to be there, because they have this great emotional connection with the people who work there, with the stories that Disney tells, with the environment that they're in. So whenever you can create that, you're going to have a successful recipe. And if you don't trust, if you don't believe this, I was telling the class yesterday, I said, I don't know if any of you have watched the whistleblower from Facebook in Congress last week. This lady who used to work for Facebook, and she explained to Congress the business formula of Facebook is essentially founded on this principle, is that Facebook is meant to create emotion, positive or unfortunately also very negative emotion. Because people, when they are emotionally involved, they get engaged. They spend more time on Facebook, and the more time they spend on Facebook, the more ads they watch, and the more money Facebook makes. And she explained that to Congress. Successful companies, whether it is for good or for bad, they based on that principle. They work on the emotion, get people's emotion, triggered, and then you get them engaged with your organization. Does that make sense? Anyway, I think we've talked a lot. So one last thing on communication. It's a dramatic story, but being from Disney, we love storytelling. And I just want to illustrate to you something dramatic that hopefully will drive the idea of communication breakdown. At the end of World War II, in the Pacific War, how do you say the war scene? The Pacific War Theater, Pacific Theater, yeah. The American allies were trying to get the Japanese army to surrender. And the Japanese were, it was a question of honor for them. They did not want to surrender. So the allies were negotiating with the Japanese prime minister. His name was Suzuki. And through some translator. And they explained, the Americans said, if you do not surrender immediately, there will be other consequences and dramatic consequences for your country. And this was translated upon to Suzuki. And Suzuki was a politician, and he was more keen into surrendering than most of the Japanese military. The Japanese military, they were, the kamikaze, they were like, we're not surrendering, we're not doing that. But the Suzuki gave his answer to the Allies, with one word, and look it up, I'm not making this up. If you look at NSA, the national website, he used one word, which is mokusatsu. And in Japanese, when it was translated to the ally, mokusatsu means not worthy of comment. So the Americans heard this, not worthy of comment. For them, it was very clear, Japanese will never surrender. You know what happened 10 days later? Anybody? History buff? They dropped the bomb in Hiroshima, and as a consequence, 100,000 people died. Now, historians now are looking back at this word, and in Japanese it has two meanings. The first one is not worthy of comment, which is what the translation that was provided to the American back then. But the second translation is withholding comment, which means give me a little bit of time to think about this. And in the case of Suzuki, the prime minister, historians now believe that he was trying to buy time to go to the Japanese army and say, we have got to surrender because something horrible is going to happen if we don't. So, it's, like I said, I warn you, it's a dramatic story, but think about it, communication breakdown, right? The importance of being clear, making sure that you don't leave room for misinterpretation, because it can have really dramatic consequences on your business, on your, whatever you're doing, but on your ability to be successful and happy and effective as a leader. And anyway, so a little bit of history thing. But go to the nsa.gov website and you'll see the whole story in there. It's pretty crazy to think about this.
What's on your minds?
Yes, let's have you guys talk a little bit. You have questions.
Tell people we can answer anything, so we don't work at Disney anymore. So we can tell you.
The good, the bad, and the pixie dust.
So you guys talk a lot about like employee buy-in and follow it, SCSE and the four pillars of, or four
quality standards. Yeah, yeah.
I was just curious, what advice do you give to companies that don't have such a cult following like Disney, such a huge like Disney college internship program, things like people who don't necessarily have all the resources to invest in finding the right people? What do you say to them on how to find the best possible?
Yeah, great. It's a great question. It is. I think one the big things I've found over my career, the biggest Disney fans are often not the best Disney employees, because I don't think they realize how much work it is. And as I say, I watch TV and videos, and you see these world-class surfers or kiteboarders or professional athletes, and you're like, it looks so easy. That's what professionals do. They make it look easy. And so typically what we try to do, and there's a formula that I use also to look at team productivity, but the number one thing in that is talent, hiring the right talent. And over time, you want to hire the right people who are going to fit in your organization. When I got out of college, I'd worked at Disney on the college program, and I wanted to go back there because for me, it was structured. I love structure. It was a highly structured environment. Hospitality, if they're running it well, is highly structured. And I loved interacting with people and working on teams. And so for me, it was the right environment to be in. So I would tell you, it's first of all, you got to find the right people who want to be in the environment. And ironically, that's 80% of the battle. Hire the right people. Think about sports. When you get the right person on the team, there's not much you have to do. Just let them perform, because that's what happens. That's what happens in companies. Hire the right people. So over time, and we're seeing this today. You're seeing, they're talking about millions of people are resigning. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to go do, but I know I don't want to be doing what I'm doing today. And we're going to see how that all shakes out. But companies can only perform on or compete on wages for a short time before everything equalizes. You can't just keep paying people more money, because it's financially not going to work out. So it comes back to culture. It comes back to, if I work in your organization, what's it going to be like? What's important to you? And so you can start looking for other strategic things. We're working with companies right now of what's your work from home or work from anywhere policy. Because some people are saying, look, if I can't work from home, I'm not going to apply for the job. And some companies are saying, well, in our company, you got to work in the office every day. And they're either going to find the people that want to do that, or they're going to change their policy, because people aren't going to want to do that. What's the flexibility you have in your organization? Can I work on odd times that work around my schedule? And so you can start coming up, and you can be much more flexible and quick on how you change your decisions. Places like Disney are these big ships. When you change a policy, it takes like a year to come up with a policy and go. Smaller organizations that maybe don't have the same resources, you can get much more involved there. We're working with some IT companies about this, and we said, look, you should take advantage of the fact in your organization you're small. You got to find the things you can offer that don't necessarily are going to cost money. What are the benefits people enjoy? What are the things that they're going to be attracted to? Anything else on that? Because I know we were talking about this a lot recently.
No, I think,
And sorry, it comes back to this. Intent to recommend. You go online. What's it like working there? The chef's a maniac. If you pick up the wrong plate, he kicks you out and sends you home for the day. I'm probably not going to work there. So it comes back to this word of mouth.
Yeah, I think that's something we can't emphasize enough is, as you start your career, I never thought about it this clearly when I was your age, but it is obvious to me now that one day you will find yourself in the right environment where you can be your own person, you can be yourself, and it feels comfortable. And when it doesn't feel comfortable, you know that you're constantly going to be pulled to try to be somebody you're not, or do things you're not comfortable doing. And I'm not necessarily talking about ethical things, but things that don't come naturally to you. And sometimes when you work in an organization, you are marginally different from the values of the organization. And sometimes it's just a matter of being purposeful and aligning yourself with the organization. But sometimes you are like drastically different from what the company expects from you. It doesn't mean the company is wrong, is bad. It doesn't mean you are bad. It's just not the right match. And, it's like marriage. Sometimes you get married and after a while you realize, you know what, this is not a comfortable place to be. But when you find... So, I guess what I'm trying to say here, there's something very, you will find naturally like, I'm loving this. And you will realize one day that loving your job, because you spend about 60% of your time working, and loving your job and getting up in the morning, looking forward to going to work, it's worth, all the bonus package and compensation in the world. Above and beyond a certain amount of money, you're like, and I would strongly recommend when you look for a job, for a position, look at the company, look at the environment. Are you going to be able to be yourself and be comfortable in that environment? That will make a drastic difference. I have met so many people, those of you that were at the Pathway last night, so many people who were in their 40s and 50s and suddenly realizing, I have spent 20 years, I've invested 20 years of effort and sweat and time working for this company, and I will never be successful, and I hated every minute of it because I'm just not a right fit for that organization. And don't wait until you're 40 years old to realize that. Be mindful about this when you join an organization. So.
Yeah. And just one more quick comment. Our daughter, we have 3 kids, and our daughter works for a startup that's based in Nashville. They make electronic instruments, and she works in Denver remotely. And we've talked to her. She's been there over a year. We're like, what are you going to do next? Are you going to go to another company? She goes, I don't know. I really like it. I'm like, why? What is it about this place? Because they're a startup. She goes, well, I'm making enough money to pay the rent and, live the life I want to have right now. She says, I get to be on a call every week with the CEO, the founder of the company. They listen to my ideas. She called us a couple weeks ago. Hey, I put an idea out on how to up the conversion online, and they implemented it and it worked. She was so psyched about that. And because she's really getting to be in part of a business and run a business. And so for her, it's the right fit. I'm flexible. I work remotely. I get to connect with everyone. They care about me, and I have a voice. And for her, that's the environment she wants to be in. So this cultural thing comes back again and again and again. And we're practical. We're like, money lets you do lots of great things. But you get to a point where, okay, what do you really want to do? Because we're finding now that as we get older, things have a very limited value. Experiences just get more valuable over time. And that's one of the reasons, I love Disney. I'm like, this is a great place to work, but I'm working Christmas Eve, I'm working New Year's Eve, I'm working Easter, I'm working 7 days a week, and I learned a lot from that. But we're like, it's time to go. Sell the house, rent an apartment in Colorado, came down here, we spent the week driving through the mountains and going to the national parks and, find out what you really want to do. And you'll find your path. And the cool thing about getting older and get these experiences, you discover new things along the way. But that cultural piece, being the right fit in places is really interesting. It's funny how psychology works. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but we go do keynote speeches and workshops, and that's how we make our living. The thing I was most proudest of when I first left Disney, I started doing a monthly newsletter, and I remember I sold it for $15. You could subscribe to it for $15. It was about leadership and everything. I remember that first person went on and bought it. I'm like, I made $15 today. I wrote this. They bought it from me. It was like the coolest money I've ever made. It was $15, but for me it was like this pride to have that. So I think you got to look at the practical side of your career, but also look at the side of am I enjoying this ride? And at Disney, I had bad days. I had bad days when I made bad decisions. I had days when things didn't go right. But on balance, it was the right fit, and the values of the company fit with what I was good at. And that's why I was happy there. But things change. Over time, you're going to find other paths.
And it's not for everybody. Some folks walk into the casting building at Disney, and within the first 2 minutes, they were like, that whole pixie dust thing, happy, cheerful, that's not my thing. Well, that's fine. Just move on, go work for Universal. I don't know. That's find your happiness somewhere else, as we say. So.
How much time do we have? Are we done?
We're done. We're late, I think.
Thank you very much.